Reem Habash, known to my community as Vipassamama. Welcome to In the Naad.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. It was such a challenge getting you here that I feel an obligation to perform. It's my form of performance anxiety. So, talk to me a little bit about you and your husband are osteopaths. And now it looks like you've created your own wellness center in Mexico. Is that correct?
Well, in Mexico, we were really doing a lot of in-person work within the community, both in Playa del Carmen and in Tulum. And we didn't actually create a center, but we were living in a beautiful community in the jungle in Sac Bay and just really getting to kind of be in nature and kind of separate from, our version of what we viewed as the Matrix and really get to share our medicine, right? That's kind of what we are all here to do is to really channel what is supposed to come through us, our gifts. And so for us, really, that's where encountering osteopathy was born. So we had a chance to personally encounter osteopathy. And so our mission has kind of been to bring osteopathy to those who have never heard of it, who've never had the chance to experience it. And even by just having one experience with that, your life can be forever changed.
So, tell us a little bit about what your practice entails and how you work and how it's different than a traditional osteopathy office.
Sure. So in the US, if you have ever met with a osteopath, they're usually going to be a doctor of osteopathy. And so I'll give a little bit of background. Osteopathy was founded in the late 1800s by Dr. Andrew Taylor Still in Missouri. And his children and wife died of meningitis, and he couldn't understand how allopathic medicine didn't save them. And so he began working with natives and had permission to open up cadavers and really understanding the fascial systems and all the different systems that are interconnected throughout the body. So for my husband and myself, we actually did not train in the US. We went to a classical French school in Canada, and our entire program is manually based. That means it's a hands on therapy where we learn how to decode the language of the body. So, this is what I would say is true body literacy. We work in different protocols. So, for example, protocol one would be the musculoskeletal system. So, we learn to work with the muscles, bones, ligaments, tendons, all the joints. We learn how to do those manipulations to the joints, but rather than doing like a high velocity, like a chiropractor, which I would compare as to slamming a door shut, we do a low grade, which is going to be setting it up, setting it up, setting up. So the wind blows or the person breathes, and essentially the door just closes. And so I think the beauty of that is that you learn how to work with the body. You learn how to not force anything, and you're always doing it in respect to the tissue. Then, when you think about protocol two, we're looking at that fluidic body. So, that's going to be the circulatory system. We're talking about the lymphatics. We think about, the craniosacral system and the cerebral spinal fluid. And of course, the fascia, because fascia is basically fluid. And then in protocol three, we're working with that energetic body. So the electromagnetic field, the life field, which is your unexpressed birth potential. And we're one of the few modalities that can go a layer deeper by working on the viscera or your organs. So a lot of our patients come to us, maybe they're struggling with fertility, and we help to stimulate the ovaries. Or if your uterus is out of alignment, we want to correct that alignment. If you're having trouble detoxing, we can pump the liver. If you have like a chronic cough or some kind of respiratory infection that you just can't get rid of, then we can mobilize the lobes of the lungs and correct all of that. So to bring you back into balance, essentially.
So, do you work at all with the chakra system?
Well,
Alignment of the chakras?
absolutely, because the chakras are essentially another energy system. So I
Right.
think where medicine kind of can fall short is that we look at these as all isolated things rather than thinking about the interconnections. And that's really where osteopathy thrives because you're looking at how do these systems connect together? Who is kind of the culprit in creating these imbalances, and how can we bring them to alignment? Like, for example, the solar plexus is one of the top things that we need to address when someone is out of alignment.
Because it
On a
disconnects, really, it disconnects the body entirely.
100%. It almost feels like a vortex when you have your hands on the individual, that you're kind of like just kind of like falling into the depths of the abyss, you know? And so that's really the beauty of it, because it's every session feels like magic.
Well, what's so interesting is that I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when you walk into a traditional doctor in America's office, there's very little touch. Like, how can you understand someone's energy or where they're coming from or what's ailing them if you're not actually touching the body? It seems to me just impossible.
Absolutely. I think it's you know, I never fault the practitioners. I look at,
The teaching,
exactly,
of
right?
course, it's the system. It's the old paradigm of, right? I mean, I would imagine that there are male doctors now that are afraid to touch their female patients, right? They're afraid to put their hands on them, actually do their work or create the magic. Because I think most doctors, especially when they first got into the business of healing, felt that they had some capacity to heal.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's been stripped from them.
Totally. And you think that, who do you serve really? Which master do you serve? Are you serving your patient? Are you serving your licensure?
I'm sure it's a complex decision for them and one that they get pulled into unknowingly with time and space. They just sort of get pulled back into a vortex that they didn't even know they were entering. I mean, we're talking about a matrix. Half the time you turn around and you're in it. You don't know how you got there.
Absolutely.
When you talk about working with energy, that
Mm.
must be a little bit different, right? How does that process work?
Well, within all of the lens of osteopathy, you heard me talk about all of these different, things we can touch, you know, really all boils back down to palpation. And palpation is just like what you feel in your hands. We have thousands of receptors in our hands. And so when you and I were speaking right now, we're speaking in the language of English. Well, when I'm working in osteopathy, I'm using my hands to communicate and to dialogue. So really, it's just learning how to palpate, learning how to feel, learning how to be in dialogue with the body, learning how to listen to its natural expression, knowing what normal is in the general scope versus normal for this individual, and then being able to shift between different structures. So, can I sink to the tissue of the bone? Can I sink to the tissue of the fascia? Can I sink to the energetic body? And that's really the skill that you have to refine. And with everything, it just takes practice.
Do you ever work with cancer patients that are having a hard time with the energy flow and sort of the energy, the movement, the stoppage of that energy becomes almost like a mold within the body? And so I think I've heard people talk about their hands actually becoming the radiation. Like the frequency gets so high and so fast that they burn it off. They burn the mold out of the body. Have you ever heard of anything of this nature?
Totally. So,
Have you?
yeah, of course. Because what happens is that what we're not taught in like normal science is that you have an expression of vitality. So before your first breath, before your first heartbeat, you have something called the PRM, which is your primary respiratory mechanism, which is essentially vitality within your system. And every organ and every bone have this vitality expression, and they have like their movements. So for example, the liver, whether you're moving or not, it's always doing this motion where it's going anterior, it's side bending right, and rotating left. And simultaneously, the stomach will do kind of an oppositional movement where side bends left and rotates right. So when you have the two of them,
Interesting.
they're kind of doing this thing, right? And they're
Interesting.
and that's without you doing anything. So you have the vitality of every structure, And then you have the mobility where you induce. It can go up, it can go down, it can go left, it can go right, it can rotate. And then you also have its position. And you need to check all of those things before you even check if they can dialogue. Is the brain dialoguing with your thyroid? Is your thyroid able to pick up the phone and call back to the brain? And so when you talk about someone who has cancer that manifests within their system, their vitality expression changes, the fluid changes, and you can feel that. It's a palpable feeling. I had a really incredible professor. Her name is Genevieve. She is fabulous in Montreal. And she was actually able to recreate the sensation of what a cancer patient feels like within their body. And that, as a student experiencing that was so powerful to then take into my practice and then have, the clinical experience, because the majority of my patients that are coming to see me are struggling with something, because unfortunately we wait until a point of intervention. We're not doing preventative work. So whether they have parasites, whether they have fungus, mold, bacteria, heavy metals, all of these things have a different type of expression of the vitality.
But they all lead to dysfunction or disease, right, within the body.
Absolutely. But what we do is we don't look for the disease. We look for health within the body. And then we reestablish that health within the body, because the body is the most magnificent healing mechanism that exists on this plane.
So you try to expand the health within the body so it overtakes the illness or the disease.
Exactly.
It becomes the primary force within the body, overtaking, working actually the exact way that a disease works,
Exactly.
but the reverse. You're
Totally.
taking the power. Do you think that sunlight, I always think to myself that sunlight must be one of the greatest healers on the planet.
Of course it is.
It just strengthens. So in LA, I just noticed that I'm an ex New Yorker,
Mm.
and I feel like nobody gets sick in LA. And when I was in New York, everybody would get the flu, and it was just this constant winter of grief and bedridden youth. And I thought, wow, this seems really unusual. But it's something I don't come across here that much.
I felt the same way about Toronto, and
Oh, right.
but I mean, and moving to Mexico was kind of like, wow, okay, like we can like just enjoy and just reap the benefits of like life and nature. But within every location, there is some kind of manifestation of how, living in the jungle is really hard. We were living for 4.5 years, and it was not the easiest thing also, because the jungle kind of has that push and pull of like, I want you here, but then push you out. And yeah, there's just different expressions of life in wherever we
do you
are.
think it's do you think it's ever sort of certain illnesses predominant among communities, but not because of hereditary issues, but because of mindsets?
Absolutely.
Isn't
Absolutely.
that interesting?
Even you could say that communities that have suffered more, maybe like their expression of vitality can even be stronger than communities that have become like weaker and more docile.
Oh, absolutely. We talk about the pain body, right? And how certain groups of people, I mean, one that I know that Eckhart Tolle, I think, talks about a lot is the black female. How a lot of oppression creates a stronger, and I don't think it was him, I don't recall who it
Mm,
was, but there's a stronger, more powerful essence there. And so that if you get groups of these people together, meditating together, something, their energy field is enormous and extremely powerful. So oftentimes you want to bring these people who have fractured or a traumatic
mm,
heritage into groups together, because what they do is they create such a powerful force field.
absolutely. And we have to remember that like our resonance radiates out of us. And so when we think about even like the heart, like our conception of what the heart is as a pump is so flawed and so just underdeveloped, really, because the heart is more than just a pump. It's a vortex. It's really like a vibrational field that we can use to magnify and amplify within our life.
Right. These are sort of all universes within that big universe of the body.
Mm.
And I think all of the chakras as vortexes and, the nadis as these highways, this really intricate system that goes on inside of us, but not just inside of us, outside of us well. In my tradition, we have 10 bodies. So the subtle body, six of them are energetic.
Mm.
Only one is physical
Absolutely.
and three are mental.
Mm.
So there's a lot more going on there that meets the eye, obviously.
Of course. We're just scratching the surface, really.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're sort of still the pioneers of this field, and we haven't even scratched the surface, as you
Mm.
said. In terms of connection
Mm.
and relationship, um, what role do you think the body has in determining who we choose as the cast of characters in the play that is our life? And
Yeah, that's a really loaded question. I mean, I have I do think that we call in a lot of these experiences that we have. I think that, you know, for me, one of my deepest passions within osteopathy has been the intergenerational or the transgenerational trauma that we carry.
yeah, oh
And
yeah,
so I can relate that back because I do treat a lot of lineages. And so I'll talk about like a very personal experience.
yeah. I'd love to hear this because I believe in this really
So
deeply.
we you know, as practitioners, we believe in getting treatment as well. Like it's absolutely necessary because we need to always be in our center. And so even from preconception, before ever getting pregnant, I was getting treatment during my pregnancy period as well as postpartum. And then after my daughter was born, she's my eldest, we would take her and we were actually doing like almost like a family like constellation treatment without it
Right.
being so. And so my husband would be on the table, and as he was being treated, it was as if my daughter was receiving treatment. And so having that like tangible felt experience in our bodies and seeing the shift of the collective in our small intimate family after that, it's just so mind-blowing because we don't realize like how deeply connected that we are, even though we're like living in our own separate bodies. So when you say like, do we choose our parents? Like, absolutely. I think that there is a reason that we incarnated with the two parents that we have chosen. I think that there are certain lessons and challenges that we have to face.
That we bring with us through the various lifetimes.
And there's
Yeah.
certain karmic
And
things that we
and
have to kind of heal. And if we don't, then they will continue to perpetuate throughout the lineages.
and I think what you're talking about in that experience with your son and daughter is one of these areas that science is digging deeply into, which is quantum entanglement.
Absolutely. And
Right. So what he's experiencing, you would experience those same new that anyone would experience. They would experience have those same experiences regardless where they were on the universe.
of course.
It's really some fascinating stuff that's coming to fruition in the world of
And
science.
even the way in which you're birthed, think of all of the impressions that leaves on you. So my first training, because I went further into like that birth world, really trying to understand like how does the birth create implications emotionally for us. And so they say that if you were born via C-section, that you may have this sentiment that you carry through life with you that you always need to be saved or extracted from a situation or scenario, or you have a feeling that you're always late. If someone says, oh, the baby's late, not on time, we do there's a technique within osteopathy that sometimes a child or an adult, they may have gotten stuck in what's the birth spiral, which is the kind of dance that you do as an infant to exit your mother's womb, which is really beautiful concept. And so sometimes the infant can get stuck in the birth canal, and they'll be on your table, after like many years after the birth. Adults do this, and then all of a sudden their body is taking them back into that birth spiral to complete what was uncompleted. And that's just like, beyond words.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I have a very good friend, and she hosts ayahuasca ceremonies, and doesn't like me to call her a shaman, so I will refrain from doing so. But she talks to me a lot about how, if the passage through the birth canal is a traumatic one, because we don't know, the child can't express itself. I mean, it could be very painful. In addition, and she says that oftentimes her the people that are working with her will go prenatal in their journey, and they will go back to that first traumatic moment when they experienced pain or struggle through the birth canal. She said that's a very frequent theme in the journeys.
Absolutely. It's
How long do you think trauma stays within a family, the lineage of a
I think
family?
as long as we allow it, as long as we allow it to stay. I think that there's a piece about recognition and awareness. And I think that one thing that I will disagree with many, holistic practitioners now is that we don't always have to cognitively acknowledge. We don't have to go there, whether it's through psychotherapy or whatever. Sometimes the body can release it without us even ever knowing what it was, why it was there, and what it came to be. And I think we're seeing this big rise right now in German new medicine, which I think that there is a lot of like great information and knowledge. But one big thing that I'm like a biggest stickler about is that if there's something physiological that's in the body and you have the emotional component, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I won't argue that. But what I will say is that I don't care how much emotional work you do, if you don't clear it physiologically, that's not going to correct. And so it has to be both, right? It can't,
So do you think it's lodged in your DNA? Is that what you think
I don't,
it has to
I
be
don't think it's lodged in the DNA. I don't even think that it's like, like there's the book, The Body Keeps the Score. There's,
right, that Bessel van der
right.
Kolk
And then you
book,
have,
yeah.
lots of practitioners now saying that, oh, it's stuck in your fascia, but really it's neurological. And so, when we learn to work with the endocranial spasms, which is like you can literally palpate in the brain, you can feel the emotional and traumatic shocks within the brain, and you can address that. And then when you do address that, that's when you can see the shifts then taking place because the body's able to integrate that. And so that's really where we need to focus the work. But you can't get there if you're not sitting straight in your pelvis. You can't get there if your body's not able to have the lines of communication open and available. If your coccyx is compacted or your L5S1 is not moving, or if you have some trouble at the cranial base and some congestion, you're not able to, really detox properly. Like, these are all things like there's layers in which we have to work with the
So
body.
alignment is the foundation among the foundations, because it sounds like you've got everything's multi-layered, and so one of the foundations for the physical body and the energetic body, it sounds like, would be alignment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So getting a person to be grounded, to be centered, and to be balanced, that's going to move mountains for them.
What about fluid,
Yeah.
adrenals?
So if you had to boil osteopathy down to one thing, it's that, like, think of water flows where there is ease. And when there is an obstruction, that's where there's the block. And that's where congestion occurs. And then that's what creates dis-ease because there's no movement. So if I had to say there's like one thing that matters, it's your fluid. And so what is cellular nutrition? It's just going to be the arterial flow, the venous return, the lymphatics, and the neurological impression, which is the impulse. So if you don't have those four things, which is the neurovascular bundle, you don't have health. You don't have nutrition to your cells. When you think about what happens in embryo when a baby is forming in utero, it's what forms first is the neurovascular bundle. It's that fluid flow. And then the bone, like your hip bone, has a big hole in it, a big gaping hole. The bone forms around the fluid. If that doesn't tell you what's primary, then I don't know what will, because that's literally saying, hey, most important thing in your body is fluid. It's circulation, it's lymphatics, it's cerebral spinal fluid, however you call it. It's all water. It just where it exists in the body, it has a different name, but fluid is primary.
So would you say nutrition, movement? It sounds like movement's key,
Well,
no?
movement is important. Yeah,
And breath?
movement and breath are so important because they also help the pumps within the body. You have pressure.
Right. And the nadis, those airways that bring the
Absolutely.
energy,
So
capture that cosmic
yeah, think
energy.
like you have pressure systems here, all throughout your system, and they need to pump, they need to regulate. So your breath helps to mobilize that. But like nutrition in the sense of food, I feel is like secondary. It's
Less
secondary to everything else.
secondary.
I mean, it
I mean, sunlight might even be more important than
absolutely.
food.
I mean, sunlight and
I mean,
rest.
however, I'll go back and say this. I would say that bad food could be the single worst thing that you're putting in your body.
That's just blocking systems, right? Like,
I mean, it's toxic. It's putting poison inside the system and then hoping that your system's strong enough to beat it out.
yeah.
It's a risky gamble, that one.
I mean, if you're using like certain oils that are going to clog you, it's like you wouldn't put certain things in your car as gasoline. So why are you putting it into your body? And if all disease starts in the colon, there's lots of people are suffering.
Is that true? Does all disease start in the
not
colon?
everything, but I would say
It's a good rule of thumb.
about 90% of patients have some kind of digestive thing that's happening. So we really need to explore, well, you said it yourself. Sun, are you getting enough sun? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you breathing? Are you even breathing properly? There's a huge movement right now talking about mouth breathing. So a lot of people breathing at night, and it's actually making people less attractive because on a biological level, we want the mouth to be forward, right? We want to have a wider palate. We want to have the jaw. And when we are actually breathing at night with our mouth instead of our nose, which means that we're having incorrect breathing posture, we're having incorrect tongue posture. What actually happens is we have a deformation of our face. Our chin becomes recessed, our palate becomes narrow, and we become less attractive. But it's not about beauty in the sense of
That's so
vanity.
interesting.
It's about beauty for biology. And when you think of it like that,
Absolutely. I mean, survival of the fittest, right? We look at those people that we think emblemize what we think is so attractive because it's going to create a next stronger, more powerful generation. I mean, that's what beauty is. But that's so interesting. So I know that mouth breathing, unless you're doing some sort of breath work exercise, is unhealthy. Like, I mean, I go to yoga class where my teacher will literally yell at you if you breathe through your mouth. I didn't realize that it led to certain deformations.
absolutely. I mean, and using it in those tools, because then you're using it to mobilize your diaphragm, is a very different experience than
Of
being up all
course.
night breathing through your mouth. And that's why you can't go into a parasympathetic state and relax.
Listen, even simple things like, I know this sounds so superficial, but like breathing with your mouth, like even when you inhale, you're clenching your lips and you're creating those lines above your lips. I mean, just the whole thing. People have no idea.
Yeah, I
though.
mean,
And then then what they do, the solution is they bring home a whole tank and mask and they're sleeping like an alien in the bed next to you. Have you seen these contraptions? I mean, they're so horrible. I mean, just train yourself to sleep properly. It's that simple. I mean, there are people, they're students that sleep with their mouth taped.
Yeah.
Just tape your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, and again, these are all great things, but it's like we've gotten to a place of deep intervention. We need to go back to medicine of prevention. And that's where, I mean, allopathic medicine has such a important place in society, in emergency medicine, in like in surgery. You know, there is a time and place for everything, but we really need to
Of
focus
course.
on the prevention. And when we understand the body and how it works and how it communicates with us, and we start to listen to these cues of, oh, wow, there is something happening in my system that's throwing me off. And if I address that before it gets to be a dis-ease, then I can stay in good health and have my like homeostasis pattern.
It's true. If you learn to listen to the body, which does take some time, but it's so doable because it starts with the gut. If there's a hesitation in the head and a feeling in the gut that doesn't make you want to dive into something, then you know maybe take a step back and think about it. Your body is
Absolutely.
talking to you. Your stomach, your head. There, I like to listen to the stomach more than I like to listen to the head. My head gets a little tricky, so sometimes I'm like, "Shut up, I got this." But it's true. I think that society really doesn't trust itself. The intuition, which I think is should be the first sense, not the sixth sense, we've really forgotten about the significance of that and negated it entirely. And my entire yogic tradition is built on building that sixth sense, building your intuition. What can you do to listen to that? Because that's going to lead you down the right
I
path.
think that's very
So
powerful advice that you just gave. Yeah.
what's the plan? What do you and your husband have planned? How do you want to move this forward? How do you get
Oh,
your
well, that's
message
a
out
great
there?
question. I mean, thank you for, the invitation to be here and to share because really that's where we are. The summer times are very harsh in Mexico. So we usually take that time to
Right.
travel. And so we have kind of a tour of different places that we're going. And so we pop into different cities. So on our list for the summer, we're going to be going to Portland and Seattle, North Carolina, as well as British Columbia. We'll be going to Golden, BC, and Kelowna, as well as Alberta. And then there's a potential that we will be making it to LA or San Diego.
Oh, I would
And so
love that.
our work right now is, we have are just continuing to build our practice, our in-person practice, because as beautiful as it is to be online, which we do have online curriculum and courses as well, but we really want to shift the direction of, maintaining hands-on work because hands-on work is so
I couldn't
important.
agree more. I think we're going to find a new shift in that, by the way. I think this whole internet thing is going to blow up. People are lonely. We're depressed. We've forgotten what it's like to connect, to feel someone's energy. I mean, it's wonderful that you have an online practice, but honestly, the
Yeah.
ideal is in person. I mean, that's where the healing really begins. And anyone who doesn't really feel like they can make it in there, they're taking a shortcut and they're going to get the results of a
Absolutely.
shortcut.
And I think, especially with the rise of AI, like now more than ever, people want to be touched, like people
I
totally.
love
So,
being touched.
so for us, it's there's two folds of, we keep the online continuing, doing work with helping families that want to grow, who are working on fertility and focusing on that, but don't want to go the route of IUI and IVF. We really focus on male fertility because the 90 days preconception is how you're going to transform your partner's experience in pregnancy and change your child's life. And that kind of puts us in the umbrella of like whole family health. But really, our in person practice is like where we thrive the most. And that's why we travel so frequently. He has now been working in Miami for about a year. And I kind of just fly here and there. And so I'm so blessed to have his support, that we can co create this together and that we can just get the word out about osteopathy. And in addition, we are going to be opening up two in-person palpation experiences. So one will be primarily for
Oh
women
wow.
who want to, whether they serve in, kind of like the birth world and that arena. So whether they're midwives or birth workers, or just women who want to learn, position of the uterus and what is actually happening inside of me. And because we believe that women hold the key to health in the home, they're the ones who kind of vet what food comes in, what meals are cooked. And we really think that that's like the best way to target changing that. And through that lens, we want to have children or young adults be able to learn osteopathy prior to going to college so they can see if this is a modality that they want to enter. We really want to shift how people relate to health. And that's kind of,
I don't think it's a yeah. It sounds like it more integration in the educational
of
system
course,
as
because
well. Like meeting, even
exactly,
meeting with schools, like having seminars. Like, do you know? Like, I know that people will say, "Can I come to your kid's school and have a talk? Just have a conversation with the student body, just
exactly. Because
enlightening them."
if children learned this, just think if you were a child and you learned this and you learned that like how like your stomach works, right? Like you said, I love to listen to my stomach. And imagine that you as an individual or like something feels off and you just put your hands on your body and you could actually feel what was going on because you knew this information and then you knew what to do to correct it, right? Like some people that suffer from like really bad acid reflux would know to, okay, if I can just hold this ligament here and that's going to release some tension. And if I can just kind of hold on to the top of my stomach and try to bring it down and slightly correct it, that's going to relieve my sensation of having this continuous acid reflux that I'm taking Tums for. That would be a completely different world we live in.
Ex-
Yeah.
that's a game
And that's where
changer. Are your kids? Do your children know how to do some of
actually,
these little pressure points
absolutely.
and
I
what
mean,
have
they
you?
watch us, so it's just kind of embedded in them, and they're like, "Oh, do you need a treatment?" Or like, "Mom, can I have a treatment?" And it's
Isn't
amazing
that
because
beautiful?
imagine, I just envision the world. Like we really have to harness like what is the message that we have come here to share? Every individual needs to tap into that. And then when we harness that and we put that out in the world, like what is the ripple effect? And that's what is just so encouraging and magnifying because there's so many dark forces in this crazy matrix and we still have the power to shift that and to bring forth like the good medicine that we want to see. And if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
That's why I say we're still pioneers. It seems like, there have been so many before us, and there have, but we're still on the precipice of this shift, of
Mm,
this movement. And we're ushering in these children, these star children who are so
absolutely.
tapped in. My kids are so tapped in. So, what does a session with you look like? Is it all physical? Or are we doing any?
So
What else are we doing?
we always start with an assessment because we don't do like a one size all fit for anybody. Everything is, yeah.
I wouldn't
So
imagine
everything
you
is
would.
based on what your body is revealing to us that day. And what would happen on Tuesday is going to look different than next Friday than a year from now. So every treatment will look completely different. And we have thousands of techniques, but it's not about the techniques, it's about the dialogue with the body. So when we begin, we'll kind of have you standing. We'll kind of do like a perceptive, okay, what are we seeing? Where are we getting called to? Then we'll do some tests, orthopedic tests. We'll do some positional tests. We'll do mobility testing, and then we do energetics. So one of my favorites is to kind of have you, while you're standing, you keep your eyes open, and I place my hands on the five spheres. So you have your cranial, you have the cervical, the thoracic, the abdominal, and the pelvic spheres. And this is kind of a test to say, who's the primary? Where do I need to start today? What's what's going to
Oh,
release? Like,
wow.
I see this thing happening in your pelvis, but I also see this thing happening in your head and also around your heart. If I hold the pelvis, does that release the heart? Or is it the cranium that
Oh,
releases
wow.
that? And so that kind of guides you to say, okay, we really, because a lot of times, and I'll tell you this, you go for an adjustment. Let's say you go and you're going to get this adjustment from your practitioner, and they adjust the same level like 5 times over the course of a year or two. Guess what? That is not, that wasn't the
Everything else
problem.
is off.
That wasn't the issue. The issue was not that vertebrae. There's something else that's holding the vertebrae, because if it keeps coming back, that's a symptom and you need to get to the root of that. And so
Right.
that's how we have to like change the way that we think. And you got to play detective, and you have to say, okay, is it this over here? Is it this structure here? How is that influencing, you know, for a year after I had my first daughter, I had this insane pain like in my belly to the left side, and I had my stomach treated, my kidneys treated, I had my kidneys again. I had so many different things treated, it wouldn't release. Then finally I saw a practitioner who she was able to find the connection that came from my pelvic floor, my heart, and my spleen. And together they made this point of contention that was literally burning. And I thought I was going to die. I was literally telling my husband, I think I might die. This might be that thing that just kills me. And I've never had it since. And so sessions can take one time to release, or it can be like layers, working through layers. And so through the assessment, then we determine, okay, this is what we're going to do today. And then, like I said, we work in the different protocols, we work in different systems at the same time. And then we kind of make a treatment plan from there, seeing what were we able to integrate. And when you respect the tissue, when you go and respect to the body instead of like forcing, that's when you actually get the lasting results.
Well, I imagine certain things like stress
Mm.
related pain or trauma related emotional pain where you're holding on, those would seem like it's going to be more of a reoccurring sessions with you. I don't think that those, right, that's stuff that you have to work
It
through
can
over
be.
time.
And it also, I've had patients where they come for like some kind of, well, they don't even know what it is. They're just like, and then we clear a trauma in one session too. And I think it's very individual. I think that, like, to say that, you know, it's all the same amongst a board, I can't say that. No.
You can't say that. What about the mind, working on the mind, clearing the mind? Is that something that's within
Yeah.
your
So I
purview or
think,
not really?
like I said, sometimes we don't even need to know exactly what it is that we're processing, that the body can release it without the knowledge of knowing that. But at the same time, yeah, sometimes patients, you'll be on an area and of their body, and they'll start talking about this memory or this experience that they're able to then just be able to process and clear when they weren't able to before. And it's because as a practitioner, it's not that I'm healing you, it's that I become a fulcrum that gives you the support for your body to heal itself. And so I,
So sometimes, oftentimes, probably just
mm,
the release itself
exactly.
is the
Yeah.
cure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
fascinating.
And it really feels like magic.
Do you teach
That's
people how
that's
to
where
do the
that's
work
no,
or
that's where
no?
we want to
Is
take
that just
it,
a gift?
because you know, yeah, because to be
Create
honest with you,
healers.
there's so many like osteopaths that do like internal gynecology. Like they used to teach that, and then because of legalities in Canada, they just stopped teaching it because practitioners were worried about losing their license, right? And so there were so many lawsuits that were happening. And so there are very few osteopaths that teach the internal gynecology for women and for men. We don't think about, right now there's I call it an epidemic of how many men are getting vasectomies. You know, there was like the pendulum swing because there were so many
Oh,
women on birth control. And then we had this huge awakening recently where all of these women realized, whoa, this is so bad. This is hormonal. This is destroying my systems within my body. And you have this movement of women that got off birth control, whether they were IUDs or pills or the implants, whatever. But then you saw the pendulum swing. Now all of these men are getting vasectomies. Now I want to talk to you about this. This is super interesting. Now,
I'm so against it because I think it's the stoppage of energy
exactly,
flowing through the body. I cannot imagine
exactly.
anything
And
positive coming
compare
of
it
that.
to what happens with a root canal. We know there's a deep correlation with people who have root canals with cancer, right? And why is that? Is because they take out the nerve ending. So you have the brain sending synapse, 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 and it has nowhere to go. And that's why. So
Go.
I
Nowhere to
predict,
flow.
don't quote me, well, quote me.
I
I
know where you're
predict
going
that
with
in
this.
another 50
I know where
years,
you're
all
going
of
with
these
this.
men that are getting vasectomies are going to have serious issues with their testicles and prostate. And if you have and if you don't have
Makes
practitioners
perfect
that are
sense.
able and willing to honor the body on their table and do the work that the male needs to correct that break of flow of energy or fluid or whatever, then we're compromising on health. And so it's so important that whatever art that we have received, because it's an art and it's a science, and if you me and my husband sat together in school, we treat very differently because we're artists, and artists express their
Right. You bring your own
absolutely
creation
and
to that table. Each person's the canvas and you guys work it differently
exactly. And
with your own
so,
magic.
getting to experience that, it's like it is like magic. And if we don't share our art, it dies with us.
It dies. I'm going to tell you something interesting about that whole concept of energy flowing through the body. I feel like orgasms are the same thing. Like, it is so important for the human body to orgasm. Otherwise, that energy is getting all stuck in your root chakra. And God, what happens from that is the anger, the lack of creativity. I mean, just lack of spontaneity, aging. I mean, even if you're just doing it to yourself, it really doesn't matter who the partner. It just means that you keep that energy, that shakti running
And
through the
I will
body.
say that there are so many people that can't even get there because of like a physical block, right? Like their their tailbone is like too forward,
Of
and then
course.
their pelvic hammock can't relax and can't
Oh,
open. And so all of those nerve endings feel compressed and
oh.
compacted instead of being like soft, supple, and fluid. And that's what we need to get to. We need to get to that place where we're just like relaxed. After having three children, like my like sexual vitality is the best now than even in my like younger years, because I feel like there's this like openness, there's like this like suppleness that like my body can access more sensation now. And so I think that
That you're
yeah,
just comfortable in your femininity. Each child makes you more comfortable as the creator and that woman who knows how yummy the body is, and or also just
totally.
feeling more
And
comfortable with it, right? You're like, your husband's seen you through three pregnancies and births, and now
and
you're like,
also
okay,
what you
baby,
said
here I
about
am.
like it's not, it's also rewiring the brain to like, it's not about like an ending versus like just the experience. And so I think a lot of people associate orgasm with like needing to like finish and like ejaculate, or like like the secretion of fluid, but the secretion of fluid is like throughout. It's like the flow is throughout, it's during, it's not just like the end point. And so when we harness the vitality of it, then I think we can just, there's different touch points throughout the orgasm that we're able to kind of really bring to life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, now you're touching on
Exactly.
tantric, right?
So,
Right. I mean, it's all about vitality, life force, and keeping it
Yeah.
flowing. I mean, we are that river, and it must flow. Otherwise, we all know what happens in
Nothing.
stagnant water. Nobody will know nothing. Well, nothing good, that's for sure. I would
Yeah, I
love it
have
if you'd
quite
come
a,
to LA.
basically if
Probably a
yeah,
following, a
basically what
big
happens
following
is
here,
that,
I'm
we have
sure.
patients reach out and they say, "Hey, I have a group of this many people, would it be possible to organize to have you guys come out?" And that's where, we do our bookings, So and we do get the emergency clients where we fly out for just like one or two people. In a specific area, and that's pretty normal. I was just in Washington D.C. For that, but it's really like the call of like where we're kind of like sprouting the seeds. I do a couple festivals in the summer and retreats, and so wherever I have met, these groups of people, women or men or whatever, then those are seeds that we kind of spread along the US or in Canada. And then from there, we get to, visit these places and visit these people and share our work. And then, and do these like palpation classes where we teach people how to touch. Because I think that's also like a big thing is like people have forgotten how to touch. And
Oh, they're uncomfortable with the
yeah.
whole contact process. It makes people
Yeah.
afraid now. It's just terrible. I watch young people with each other, teenagers, and there's just no physical touch. I love it. It makes me feel feminine and
Yeah.
yummy, and I love it.
Yeah.
Anytime I have a chance
Yeah,
to
of
touch
course.
somebody, I'm into it. Women or men, it's not sexual. It's grounding, it's connection,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
energetic.
And
I
eventually
love
you
it.
get to feel with your body, with your
So
being, right? And that's cool too because we get to just like, oh, be in the with by being in the presence of someone else and now I can just like feel, right? It's really
I think it's beautiful. I'll tell you one thing, we need more of that. There is no question. I think that's what we are
yeah,
missing the most of.
absolutely. I think
And it may have a comeback. You
yeah,
never know.
yeah.
People are feeling
Big
lonely.
shifts.
People are lonely. Lonely, anxious, anxiety ridden, all of that stuff. Leaning into their
Yeah, and
TVs as
the
distractions.
phone is probably
Oh, yeah. Well, that goes without saying. That goes without saying.
yeah.
I'm lucky I don't have that habit. Just don't know why. Just now, I
I
guess
think
I
you're
just
just in
really don't
tune
care
with
what other people are
yourself.
doing.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
so
just
self focused.
you're literally
I
here, and
just care what
because
I'm
you're
doing.
here, you're able to just take your energy and utilize that. And I also think you're a creator, right? When we're in touch with our creator being, we show up differently. Because you can either be a creator or a consumer, and you can't be both at the same time.
Oh, well said. Well said. I do love the way you speak.
Thank you.
I was drawn to you when I heard you on that podcast with our mutual friend Guru Jagat. Yeah, it really resonated with me the way you spoke and the clarity and your point of view and your voice, which
Thank you
I
so
think is
much.
just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, tell us tell people how to reach out to you, and I'm also going to put you in touch with some of my friends who have retreats.
Amazing.
I think
Thank
you'd be
you.
like a welcome addition to what
Thank you.
they're doing.
Yeah. So you can find us at www.encounteringosteopathy.com. My
Could you
Insta,
repeat that one more time?
sure, it's www.encounteringosteopathy. So, and that's our brand as a couple. That's just, what we want people to experience is just have the chance to encounter osteopathy. My Instagram is Vipassamama. So that's like Vipassana, but Vipassamama. And the meaning of that is just to see the world through the reality of things through the eyes of the mother, which is always with a lens of love. I think that's a great way to
Beautiful.
to approach the world, especially in these interesting times that we're living through. And if people are interested in working with us, to just send us a message and let us know where they're located. And if that's on our list, we can let them know the dates of that. Or if they'd like to, cultivate a group even of 8 to 10 people in their area, or we might have some people in your area as well. And then we can discuss potential dates to fly out to treat.
Well, that's wonderful. What a treat having you here today.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
glad we worked it out, the
Likewise.
technological problems.
Like you said, there's always like big messages coming through when those things are happening. So yeah, we're grateful for
And a
that.
good message, work through them, not to give up.
Absolutely.
Work through it. Thank you so much, Reem. Lovely connecting. I hope we stay in touch.
Absolutely, we will. We'll see you in LA, right?
Satnam. Yeah, please. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.